Hi everyone. So we are going to look at painting this leaf today. This is the caladium or the caladium. I'm not sure how it's said. The caladium or caladium bicolor. Yeah, or the bicolor caladium. So the thing with this particular leaf is it's very interesting. It has this very fun character to it. If I'm not sure if all of you know, but I'm right now in Kerala, and here in Kerala, this leaf, this plant is so popular. You'll find it everywhere. I've seen it everywhere. Literally, when I say everywhere, it's you'll find it at the side of roads, growing wild. And I've always wondered what is so, I mean, how easy it must be for this plant to grow, because without care you can see it grow everywhere. In fact, what I'm going to show you here in the garden right now is this caladium plant. So let me show it to you. In my dad's garden, I'm going to show you the plant that we are. So there are a lot of plants that my dad loves to cultivate. And the caladium plant, as you can see, it has these fascinating leaves. I just love how they look, how they appear. So you have these that are, have these white speckles on them. And then there are ones that are, this is generally the species, or not, I wouldn't say the species, I guess the family it belongs to is called caladium. Different ones with different colors, different types in a family will have different names. So here's another one which has pink and white speckles. what I'm not sure what you'd call it, but they're so cute, And where's my favorite? My favorite, the one that grows wild, is the one that I painted. Where is it? Where did I pick it from? Let's go around. I'm gonna have to search for this one. I might just try this one. I just love this leaf. Just look at this. This one's gonna be such fun to paint. I can't even imagine what colors is so beautiful. Where is my pretty leaf? This one is pink and white with, all those speckles, but the one that I painted earlier was all pink in the center. Sorry, pardon the noise you're listening to or you're hearing. I'm live in Kerala, and there's going to be a vehicle or two going around here. All right, let me see. Garden here, so many plants. If any of you have a request, oh, there it is. There's my subject of choice. There you go. This spotted thing is so cute. Just look at that. Fascinating, isn't it? So this leaf is what we're going to paint today. What I'm going to do is I will take this leaf. I'm going to take one of these leaves to paint, and I'm also going to take one of those that are probably have a line in them. Yeah, makes sense. So let's try this. Let's try one of this, and let's try another of another plant, another caladium plant. I'm going to pluck off one of these, maybe one that's dying. I know there's one that's not so great health. Yeah, this one. This is the one. Yeah, this one's already on its way out. So you see the colors are a little bright. I'm also going to pick up one more. And that's this one. How about this one? Yeah, does it look different enough? Okay, we have a sample here. We can probably pick from here. Yeah, so let's try and make this one. I'm going to pick a leaf here. Oops. Yeah, there you go. Two lovely leaves. Okay, and the reason I picked up two leaves is because we have some drying time, and when we have this drying time, we can always do something fun on another sheet, right? Why wait for it to dry, take time to dry? Why it takes time to dry? Why this? All right, so right, can you hear the crickets? Here in Kerala, all the crickets are out nice and early. Okay, and now we get started. All right, so our sample leaves are here. I'm going to take this off, and we are going to do this on 2 sheets of paper. So I'm going to try this on 2 different types of paper, simply because I want to see what difference there is in the wet on wet application with 2 different papers. Yeah. So one is going to be the Menorah sheet. Menorah sheet is 180 GSM paper. That's going to be this way. Yep. 180 GSM paper. And I'm also going to try painting on a larger sheet, and just let me get that out. More like 300 GSM watercolor paper. And I just want to see, I mean, it's not really 100% cotton, but it is nonetheless watercolor paper. There you go. That's textured watercolor paper. Cold pressed paper. And what I'm going to do is cut out a sheet from here. There you go. So I have this sheet here for one, and I have a plain 180 GSM and a 300 GSM in front of me here. Okay, all right. Next thing I need is my watercolor set. I'm going to go with Camel 24 cakes. Okay, let me just pull up my camera a bit. Yep. Better? Yeah, I think that's better. Okay. So what we have here is the Camel 24 shade watercolor set. I'm going to be using this for my colors. I will also be using gouache, and I mean the gouache I have here is Bristol white gouache. I'm only doing this for the white speckles we have here. Now the reason I'm using gouache is because the white on this is quite transparent, and I can't get it vibrant enough unless I use gouache. You can use a white gel pen if that works, but I haven't tried a white gel pen. Alright, so those are my paints. In terms of brushes, I'm going with a size 6 and probably a size 2. Size 6 and size 2. Yeah, round brushes. Yeah, that should be it. Jar of water. something else. Yep, my subjects. All right. So we're going to make this rather easy to do. The shape of this flower is rather simple. We don't need too much of drawing or sketching in this case. We'll just make a general shape, okay? And even though this leaf really doesn't have, half the leaf is missing, I didn't want to pluck a nice leaf, you know. This one's already half gone. We just need to know what the texture is like. So in that case, we were going to draw the same shape on two different papers and simply do the difference in the texture or the pattern or the print, or yeah, on the texture. So here you go. Starting, if you look at this leaf, okay, you'll notice that there is a center point here, and then you have this kind of a pink line that's vertical, and one that's not horizontal but yeah, somewhat cross shaped, and then you have this X shape too. Okay, so let's say our starting point is somewhere here in the center, and we have the leaf vertical line going up and a vertical line downwards, and then so the shape is rather cute, you know, it's heart shaped. That's why this leaf is also called, apologize for the sound. I have a child who's hollering away. Okay, so this is a kind of heart shaped leaf, right? It's also called the Jesus heart leaf or the elephant ear leaf. So you start from here, from the top point, a little U-like thing, shape, go upward, and keep your pencil coloring light where possible. It just makes for, and be very you don't have a fixed, you'll notice this is not identical, symmetric. You have this bulge here that's a little wider, this is a little less wide, so it doesn't have to be identical two sides, right? That's what makes it organic. If you did not make it identical, all right, and then you have this curve of sorts. The end is somewhat like this. In fact, the end very often becomes a little curved downward this way. All right, going to the other side, I have a slightly bigger bulge here. All right, curve. Oops, that's a bit too much. Okay, I'm not going to bother about that all that much. Okay, curvy. Yeah, and from this center point, you can be sure to have a light line this way, and one starting from here going up, one like this, same way up here, and like this. Is just a general framework, okay? You don't need to draw this very perfectly as such. Different leaves have a different, you'll notice a few small ones here too. If you want to show those, you can show those in a slight pink. Okay, so that's one leaf. Then the other leaf we're going to try on watercolor paper here. This is going to have a very similar structure, but for the sake of slight change, maybe we'll make it a little wider. Okay, so again, center point and a little height up. That's where your curve starts. Okay, let's take this up. You need this curvy nature of the leaf to be very clearly there, right? So try to hold your pencil a little away so that you have this very organic shape it takes. Yeah, slight curves. There you go. Now in this leaf too, from the center, you have these lines, and here you have bifurcations that come a little earlier too. You have this, okay, and then and a little lower, something like this, and this seems to be coming further down for this particular leaf. More of these veins. Yeah. Yep. So there's our two leaves. We'll start off with the first one. which is going to be this leaf. Okay, what I'm going to do with this color, for color's sake, I'm going to keep this little sheet of paper. Oh my. No, there's a lot of background noise here. Alright, so let's just see where. There it is. My testing paper. Testing paper is always a good idea when you're trying out colors. So this one in particular looks like very vibrant sap green. So I'm going to go with sap green, and I know I've tried this, so I can be sure that this is sap green with a little bit of yellow ochre. And the pink is carmine, I think. I have to check this. Carmine or crimson, I'm not sure. Crimson, it is crimson, yeah. Crimson. So crimson it is, and sap green and a little yellow ochre. So very simple colors. Let's start here with a little bit of sap green and yellow ochre. I have sap green here. Yep, that's sap green with a little bit of yellow ochre. Yeah. It dulls the sap green just a wee bit so that we have not such a vibrant color, but a more earthy color that you would. So I can show it to you here. You see that? And I don't want it to be too not bad, right? So I don't want it to be too dark pigmented at the moment, because this is a wash layer, and we don't have much gradation in the green, so we're going to keep it maybe 2 washes, and that's it. And then we're going to put in the crimson. Okay, so let's put that down there. So starting here, I hope you can see this. Yeah, I'm going to start here with, yeah. So here is just a nice first layer wash kind of a thing, and I'm not going to be very I'm not going to be very slow about this, because I want a rather even wash. So the thing about washes is that you need to move fast. They dry fast, so you need to move fast. You need to be able to try and get a not much of a patchy look to it. Well, a patchy look will come in naturally depending on the paper, and in this case this is the 180 GSM paper, so you are likely to see some patchiness, but move fast and the paint will not dry. Now I'm outdoors, so the paint will dry super fast. It's gonna dry really fast, so I really need to work fast. There's a lot of bikes out here. All right, so you have a relatively nice outline here. Oh, I'm audible. Sufficiently audible. All right. So this is layer 1. What I like to do is I like to go in with a little more deep color, and just if you look at this part, you will have once the pink comes in, you're going to start to notice that this green is really quite a bit more deep than I have made it right now. So I like going from the center outward. Just a second layer very quickly. And this one I'm not going to go into too much of yellow ochre this time, because I want that green to kind of stand out. Okay, this part is a little I want the green concentrated on the center bit. Yeah, there you go. Oh, and an ant here. Okay, don't worry about the patchiness out here. My table is not steady. All right. While this is still a little wet, what we're going to do is we're going to take the 2-number brush. I'm going to take the 2-number brush and take crimson. I think that's what we said we would do. Crimson is nice pretty shade, but I'm going to be a little careful with this, and I don't want this to be very dilute. I want it to be a little thick because it's going to go in the center. So here's the center dot. You can see the way it spreads. Okay, so if it were very watery, I'd end up having a really big spread, which I don't want. I really don't want a very big spread. However, I do want some of it. Okay, so that it looks the way it is in reality. I would recommend painting it this way, because then the blob of paint that you get that spreads is mostly in the center. So let's try and do this. There, you see that portion that's dried? Never mind, just keep going. Okay, so look at your leaf. Your leaf is here. Now we have one coming from here. Like I said, you might see thin strokes, but I'm not going to do that here because I don't want it to be dark. And if I do put it, I'm going to make my paintbrush go very light on these. You see? Thin veins. This sort of thing. Okay, so while this dries, I can't do much more right now. I'm going to go on to my watercolor paper and see what I can do. But the next one, it's going to be a tricky one because I haven't tried this. So let's try this. Again, I'm going to go with a generic sap green and yellow ochre and try and see if I can. Okay, so this, in this case, the paper is slightly cold pressed, so it's got some texture, not all that much, but it's definitely got more texture than the previous 180 GSM paper I was using. But again, paper, because I'm outside and it is quite warm, dries fast, so you need to make sure you have enough water in the paint that you are using. Keep moving fast so that you can get a rather uniform first wash. It is nice to have some sort of movement in the direction of the veins. It just makes for it would look like you have some directionality similar to that of the veins. Alright, I have a little bit more paint, excessive paint there. I am going to also drop in a little bit of paint here and there while the paper is wet, so that I get this kind of a middle section that is deeper in color. You know, this is going to blend really. You're not going to see it very distinctly. It's going to just blend along. Oops. Bigger brush is always great for washes, because I could have probably gone with an 8 or a 10. Just makes it easier not to land up on dry portions. Oops. I'm a little hurried today. Okay, so that's our base layer for the second one. And over here you'll notice I don't have too much variation other than the white speckles I've had. So I'm going to just simply take the number 2 brush, dip it into more sap green, but this time without the yellow ochre, and just a wee bit more thick. I don't want it to. And here I'm going to, like I said earlier, I probably should start downward and come to the center, or sideways and come to the center. The center is important because that's where you want the kind of blob to end up, here in the center. So there. The moment you pick your brush off, that's where you'll find paint is deposited. Okay, so we're just going over those lines that we had, guidelines that we had drawn. Okay, that's it. We don't want more than this, because there is nothing more than this. This leaf is rather, the beauty of the leaf is going to come in the next layer, which is the gouache. So fingers crossed that's going to come out well. Okay, we leave this to dry and we go back to leaf 1, which was our primary leaf. Okay, so this part I'm going to quickly just put in a thin, very thin round of crimson. Okay, very thin, with the tip of my brush, just a touch of sorts. And now you will find that there is no real bleed because the paper has dried. Okay. You simply see it like a vein. Okay, and that's it. Now it comes the part which is fun, which is the gouache. The gouache can be I like to pick it directly from the bottle, because then, I mean, not the bottle, the tube, but I can go and just put some on the palette. That's probably the better way to do it. So the thing is, I need it thick, and so I'm fine with just dipping the tip into the tube. But for now, let's just touch. All you need is the tip. That's all you need, and you need it thick. Gouache has to be applied on this leaf quite thick. No clear pattern, but it is not going to be just a splatter. We're going to intentionally be putting these. Okay, I need to test this. I think I have too much gouache on my. Let's start with the little specks on top. barely visible, as you can see. So this is possibly because I've diluted my gouache a bit, and I need to darken my leaf a bit too. So maybe in the next leaf we're going to do that. Okay, let's try and darken it a bit. These are random speckles, and yet they look nice when you add a little bit, just a little bit of. So if you look at my palette here, there's a little bit of yellow on top of which I deposited the gouache, and if you like mix that, you'll find it it's become a wee bit creamy. It's not white per se, but just a wee bit creamy, and that's nice too. That kind of a color is nice too. If you feel this is too light, what I'd recommend you do is make sure you put a second wash of sap green, and you need not put yellow ochre into that. You can keep it sap green so that it's a little more dark, right? Watercolors, as we know, dry light. You will notice that you should stop along the border because there is a clean border. Okay, so keep that in mind when you're putting these blotches of white on your leaf, that you want to maintain. At the end you should be able to see a little bit of a clean border, little bit, not all that. So I do dab at points when I feel, yeah, but not always. Again, we don't want it to look very even. That is not, it's very, very organically different from each other, these specks. Yeah, my green is a little too light. Could have been brighter, right? All right, so let's do an experiment, since this is anyway how we learn. How about I try the second half of this petal slightly darker, okay? And then we can see if it makes a real big difference. It should, I feel, make a difference. And don't panic. A second layer, as long as you apply it gently, will not usually disturb even the crimson that's there. So this is the experiment layer, okay? Just ensure that you don't rub your brush too many times on that pink part, okay? That's important. Just a single sweep over the pink part and you should be fine. Oops. There you go. And don't worry if your pink also is looking dull. We will go over it one more time with we'll go once more with crimson. For you, before you go over with crimson, okay, just remember that the the green should be a little wet. Otherwise, it's going to be odd. It's going to spread too much. All right. So I go back to crimson. It should be thick, not runny. And since we already have, there you go, it's running. So we'll be careful with this one. Oops, and I did forget one thing. Forgot to start from the ends. Okay, start from the ends. That's very important. to definitely have a nicer white on that. Okay, we can't put the white just yet. We're going to have to wait. So let's get to the second leaf, which is already dry. Now we're going to do what is the dry brush technique, okay? And I am hoping this works because I haven't tried this leaf before. So fingers crossed. Dry brush technique with gouache is going to give me what I want. There's our leaf. Crickets. The crickets are all out. Okay, so that's our leaf. And that's my white gouache, which is very, very dry at the moment. Okay. Now you will notice that this thing has something of a pattern, you know. So I'm going to start from somewhere here that I can see. You see this dry brush technique? Again, we have to leave the border. So let's take a little more gouache. Okay. And let's try a sweeping motion like this. Oops. Okay. Dip your your brush in paint again, and have this sweeping motion come back in. Completely dry, actually. I'll be honest, it's again, I might see a better result if the green was brighter. So let me try a second side with brighter green. For that to happen, I'm going to oops. So cramped for space here. Oops. I am going to drop something before this live is done. Yeah. Lesson to self. White gouache needs quite a dark background. Yeah, that looks better. Yep, we're going to see better results with that one. Okay, nonetheless, what I can do is continue with the white gouache application on the second side. Okay. Not as vibrant as I expected, but let's hope for the best with the second side. I'm leaving that border around the leaf, just keep that in mind. I need a border. So this part becomes rather odd. You start seeing these lines that go upward. Okay, half that leaf is done. We can go back to this leaf. Alright, going back to this leaf, we are going to here's my sample leaf. There you go. Let's see how this works out. Oops, oops, oops. Big mess. Too much water in the gouache. I'm going to just work out here. Oh, nice. Much better. Right, yeah. It's definitely showing better than it was before. So here I'm going to put in just a few dots and few dashes here. That's it. Sometimes all you need is a dabbing action. It looks... Alright, let's go here. I do notice these bigger spots at certain points, like towards the edge, and so I do try and kind of maintain that sort of observation, you know, I mean, whatever comes from that observation, try to maintain what you see. So inside are smaller dabs of white, and outside you find these longish connected sort of dots. See the difference between the two? Quite different, right? Okay, since we've done this, what I'm going to try and do is show that this would be how the leaf is folded, you know, and let's try and put a shadow to this leaf, and we're going to imagine the leaf is placed this way. So if you talk about, when you're talking about shadows, you have to be able to see it before you draw it. So here's a sheet of white paper, and you've got to look at the leaf as it's placed. Okay, so a leaf when placed like this will obviously have a darker side here and a lighter side here, whichever face is facing you. So I'm going to just place this leaf in such a way that I have the lighter shadow, okay, the darker shadow here. And you'll notice that there is, if the leaf is tilted this way with the light hitting it this way, you will notice that the shadow is larger on that side, right? The side that's facing you, and lighter on this side. Okay, so I don't have a direct light on this the leaf right now. But if you were to do this in bright sunlight, you'd see a darker shadow. Can you see the shadow at the edge? This edge over here. Yeah. You'd see that shadow if you put a really bright light, or you took a photo at noon, in the under noonday heat. You'd see that. So we're going to draw that. And we're going to keep it a light shadow. Like, since we aren't seeing a dark shadow, let's keep it light. For that, I take a mixture of black, ultramarine blue. Okay, you have ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, burnt umber, my mistake, burnt umber, gives you this grayish shade. Okay, if you blend it the right way, you will see a grayish shade. To it, you can add just a wee bit of black. Oops, I still have a little gouache on my wall. Yeah, gouache takes a little longer to clean off compared to watercolor. Yeah, to this, I will add just a wee bit of black. Okay, and I'm going to maintain this slight gray shade. I'm going to make it light with some water. Yeah, I think this is light enough. Test it if you want, because you don't want to make a mess on the painting itself. So let's just test it. Quite dark still, right? I'd lighten it more. Let's see. Yep, that's good. So this is what I'm going to do, and be careful when you're doing this, because you do not want the shadow to come on to the green portion. Turn your paper if you have to, and have the shadow come in. So if you notice the shadow, like I said, if you're noticing it directly on a leaf, you'll notice that it is not even. Some portions are thicker, some are thinner, and you need to just observe before you paint. I would always recommend observing. Now I'm painting from memory, so it's probably easy enough for me, but if you're doing it, I actually did this in the afternoon today, and I had a lovely shadow under morning light, afternoon light rather. So I did this, and it thinned off here for some reason, and then I assumed that the leaf was slightly turned at the edge, and that's why I had a shadow like this. You see? And now this side probably has little to no shadow, and so I'm not going to put one there. It seems rather irrelevant to put one there, but I will put one here because this part of the leaf is sticking up a bit. Okay, that's it. And be gentle with the shadow, and be very light with it. That gives it some life, right? So that's one leaf. Since we have time, another 5 minutes, let's just quickly go back to the other leaf. Is it dry now? Do we have some hope? Yes, we do. I'm going to keep this aside. It does look dry enough for me to attempt my gouache. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed, gouache is going to look okay on this one. You need a really dry brush. It's very important that you have a dry brush. And if you are wetting anything, only the tip, nothing more than the tip. Alright, so here we go. See how this looks. Alright, again, we're just quickly analyzing the leaf before we do this. You want to see some sort of a motion like this, right? This sort of a motion, a curvy motion to your brush, so that some sort of a pattern like this, right? And from the other side, you have a similar pattern the other way. You can make these kind of lines, broad lines, although I feel the flattening of the brush is important at this point to get that, that curve that we're looking for. Yeah. so that it looks somewhat like this. I got some company. Parrots for company. Flattening the brush a little more. Oops. Sorry, you have to be really careful. This happens with gouache often when I get too dry about it. And the end is these longish lines where you can actually probably keep the brush vertical like this. Oh, we haven't finished the top. I have to finish this. Oops. Brush is getting... I got too much at the edge there. Alright, this is now when the brush is getting really dry. So I'm going to wet just the tip. Yeah. But the moment you wet it, you'll notice that the gouache gets lighter because it's starting to blend with the green. And again, you'll find that I need to dip into the gouache again. Alright. What's going to make this a little better is if we take our number 2 and just run a slight green along the veins that are now starting to disappear. So sap green again, test it in the center. Okay, I don't want this to be very dark. It's nice to accentuate these veins just a wee bit, nothing too sharp. On this side, it's going to probably look a little starker because our base color was very light. Okay, there are veins, if you look carefully, there are veins that go out other places too, but they're very light, far too light. You could put them, just show them. Again, a quick shadow because the leaf is turned and you have a leaf like this. Essentially, don't forget it's not entirely flat, right? It's a curved leaf. So you can assume that that leaf is sitting on its side, and so you will have a shadow. So let's just put the shadow again on one side. Gray shadow, the same gray that we were talking about earlier. Ultramarine blue, burnt umber, and a wee bit of black, but in a very light wash-like consistency and with a very thin brush, because we don't want to show a dark shadow here. Keep the shadow slightly uneven, because at certain points the leaf is still up and down, you know. So basically, if it's further away, the shadow becomes thicker. If it's closer, and the shadow becomes thinner, and that's the effect you are trying to get at. Just a wee bit, yeah, there. Okay, so this is what I'm trying to say. Here you have a little bit of a thick shadow, and then here it's thin over here at this point. That's where the leaf is touching the ground a little more, or is closer to the ground, and then you have again an uneven look. You can deepen the shadow if you like, but for now I'm not going to do that because I have a too shaded leaf, which is not what I originally intended. So I'm going to show the shadow coming only at one end. Okay, and that's our caladium. I have to check this out. I'm not sure if it's British pronunciation or American pronunciation, but these leaves are just so pretty, and I can never get enough of them. I was always fascinated, and I'm really glad I tried painting them, because look at them, aren't they pretty? So thank you everyone for joining in. This was fun. I should probably try a few more leaves while I have a few more days in Kerala. So join in if I have another live. I'm not sure if I will have one, but if I do, please join in. Thanks, Ritu. Thank you. And if any of you find any way to make these better, please do share. Comment on my post so I can learn too. And do try. This is an excellent leaf, fun experiment with leaves. So maybe tomorrow I'll go out in the garden and pick up another one. Let's see what. All right. Thanks for joining, everyone. See you. Bye.